this information appear that he was somehow at least know something about what I was looking into.
This
And
is
so
my
I went
weapon.
back
It's
to
me.
the video and I saw this 2001 Pontiac Bonneville pull up to the gas pump. It's, that's when it clicked. And I started paying particular attention to the surveillance video from the Texaco station.
Okay, and I want to show you, Mr. Atkins is going to put on the screen States Exhibit.
Infinity and one. Let's hope we could get Doug
598Y.
out of here. Boy, they got Doug in court forever.
We're out in States Exhibit 598Y. Can you describe to the jurors what they're looking at and the relevance it was to your part of the investigation working on this case?
So 598Y is a picture from Mr. Bradford's Instagram page, and it is one of a few photos that showed him next to a Pontiac Bonneville, like I testified to previously. And I obtained that photo around the time that I identified his phone number and got his phone records and tower usage data that placed him in the area of the crime scene, as I testified to previously.
And the photograph that's next to him standing in, next to the Pontiac. Can you describe to the jurors where that's from? There's two photos contained within. How are they relevant to each other?
Well, the one on the right is a still shot from the surveillance footage from the night of the murder.
Okay.
From the Texaco station.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of the video surveillance, you said in States Exhibit 591Y that Pontiac arrived to the Texaco at what time?
At 6:41 p.m.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of the surveillance how long in total was that Pontiac seen on the video surveillance?
If I may refer to my reports, I get the numbers.
If it will help refresh your recollection, yes, just look up when you're done.
So it was there. The Pontiac was in view of the surveillance cameras at the Texaco station when it pulled up into the pump at 6:41 p.m. and until it drove away from the station at 7:17 p.m.
So fair to say, reviewing your report helped refresh your recollection as to how long it was there?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it was roughly 40 minutes?
Yeah, about that.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of Mr. Bradford's call detail records, was that consistent with him being, or were they consistent with him being in the area of the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue for roughly 40 minutes?
Yeah, but his phone traveled to the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue after it departed the area, or not, excuse me, are you talking about the McDonald's?
No, so you just described to the jurors, let me rephrase my question. So that you saw the Pontiac remain at the Texaco for roughly 40 minutes. You remember saying that?
Yes,
41 to, I think you believe, 7:17?
6:41 to 7:17, correct.
And can you tell the jurors in reviewing Mr. Bradford's call detail records and the activity on his phone during 6:11 and 7:17, were they consistent with him being in the area of the Texaco during that time period?
At the Texaco at Northside Drive and McDaniel Street, yes. His phone pinged in that area from 7:11 to 7:19. It utilized the tower, so it didn't ping at the tower that entire time, but the time frame that his phone did ping at the tower, off the tower and sector that serviced that general area was encompassed, by the surveillance footage.
Let me ask you this question. Was his phone, or was there activity on his phone during that entire period of time, or were there times where his phone wasn't utilizing a tower?
Well, his phone, it wasn't connected to the tower the entire time, as if it was like streaming data or something like that, or if it was, I didn't get any records that indicated that. It was only used, it only connected to the tower to sending or receiving a phone call.
Okay. And as a part of your investigation, did you also review or look into the social media accounts or the Twitter account for Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in State's Exhibit?
Is that how that works?
I believe it's 524Y. Was this a photograph that you located from the Twitter account of Mr. Kendrick? But once it gets up there.
Oh, there we go. Yes, yeah, it is. There's a, and I don't know that's part of the exhibit because I seem to remember this gray bar going across the screen with the other exhibits as well. Yeah, now it's moved. But yes, I do recognize that. That's an image from Mr. Kendrick's Twitter account.
And messed up hiding his identity or
can
something?
you tell the
What was
jurors,
that?
was there anything about
see who that
the
is.
jacket that Mr. Kendrick is wearing in State's Exhibit 524Y that you, after seeing this and also reviewing the video surveillance, that was helpful to your investigation?
So yeah, the interior surveillance from the Texaco, at 641, the Pontiac 2001 Bonneville pulls up to a pump, and the front seat passenger exits the vehicle and walks into the convenience store attached to the Texaco, and in so doing, came in very close proximity to an interior surveillance camera. And so this footage revealed the outfit donned by the front seat passenger. And that image from the Twitter page that you just displayed on the monitor behind me, or the television behind me, that man, Mr. Kendrick from the Twitter page, was donning what appeared to be the same jacket as the man from the video, the surveillance video from the Texaco.
And is that what we're looking at, the comparison that you just described that you did in State's Exhibit 593Y?
That's yes.
And can you tell the jurors the
Can't say
photograph?
that's the same person right there, though. I mean, that's the same jacket, maybe. You can't even say 1,000% that's the same jacket from that picture right there, but that damn sure don't even look like the same person. Yeah, that don't look like the same person. I don't know what they talking about right now, but yeah, nah. Free thug. Shit.
We're looking at it on the left-hand side from the convenience store. Can you tell the jurors the time period in which that photograph or that screenshot would have captured?
It was very shortly after the Pontiac Bonneville arrived on scene. If you would like the exact, matter of fact, I've just looked at my report to refresh my recollection about this. It was actually at 6:42 p.m.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors in the photograph to the right from Mr. Kendrick's Twitter account what time that photo of Mr. Kendrick was posted and on what date?
It was posted on January 10th, 2015. As you can see there, because I testified about this previously, I moused over the date, and that made the time pop up, and the time is 7:35 p.m.
Now, as you continued to review the video surveillance, can you tell the jurors, did the individuals that you saw, I guess, exit and enter the Pontiac
He don't even
later
know what to say
interact
because he ain't got no good
with
point to make.
another sedan?
That was,
Yes.
can you,
And in State's
help me out here.
Exhibit
Throw me a bone.
594Y. And here I thought the screenshots would be less difficult than the freezing video.
Objection, Your Honor. This is cumulative of prior testimony that we've had at least once, if not twice, in this case.
Any response?
I mean, there's been no,
Is this going to be a comparison?
yes.
Okay, overruled.
Now, can you tell the jurors were you able to, I guess using your number of years of experience, able to determine the type of vehicle in which we're seeing depicted in front of the Pontiac in the middle of the screen?
The Volkswagen CC VR6 Sport.
Okay. And when you previously testified, you talked about someone you had, I guess, a name that you had come across during your investigation, Miss Ariel Bax.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, in getting her name, were you able to use public databases to determine any vehicles registered in her name?
Yes, I was.
And can you tell the jurors what type of vehicle was registered Ms. Bax's name during this time period of January 10th, 2015?
The Volkswagen CC VR6.
Okay. And in your review of the make and model and year that Ms. Bax had, was the vehicle consistent with what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 594Y?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you also talked about previously an individual, Miss Kenya Morton.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why you looked into Miss Morton as it relates to this investigation?
I'll object to the reasoning behind what this witness is doing, otherwise.
Sustained. Can you rephrase that?
Yes. In the phone calls that you reviewed and have described today from Mr. Kendrick, did Mr. Kendrick place any calls to Miss Morton?
Yes.
And through your listening of the calls and your investigation, were you able to determine how Mr. Kendrick and Miss Morton were associated or knew each other?
Romantically involved.
This is phone for hearsay.
That's a review of phone calls that are in evidence.
And also speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
It's,
Well, without telling me what the association was, were you able to see several calls between Ms. Morton and Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay. And
Where's we going with
in fact,
Where are we going?
in
Get there. Get
one of the
there,
phone
damn it.
calls that you listened to and has been admitted into evidence as it relates to Mr. Arnold, did you hear Miss Morton in one of the phone calls?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors the date of the phone call in which you heard Miss Morton in the background?
January 10th, 2015.
And what time?
7:42 p.m.
Okay. And that time in relation to, how was that time, the 7:42 p.m. that you heard Miss Morton in the background, related to or the time in which Mr. Donovan Thomas was shot and killed?
Well, the 911 call is placed contemporaneously with the shooting, and that 911 call is placed at 7:22 p.m., so that call was 20 minutes after the night.
Subject to speculation, unless there's a foundation,
On the what?
the contemporaneous.
Sustained.
Yo, she's sustaining every damn
Yes, I'm-
thing. Every objection.
I need
that comes
clarity.
with
I'm not
sustain.
certain it's the contemporaneous.
Con-
I know what it
I
means.
don't know if he is able to testify from anything that it was contemporaneous with the murder. I think that's what the objection is to. Is that right? Or he can testify to what time the 911 call was.
I'll rephrase.
Sustained.
Agreed. I'll ask a different question. Mr. Sprinkle, you said the 911 call was at one time,
7:22 p.m.
and the call in which you heard Ms. Morton's voice and reference to her name was at one time. What time?
7:42 p.m.
And during that same phone call, was there reference to Miss Ariel or Ari?
That I don't recall.
Okay. And well, let me ask you this
Boy,
question.
Boy, he's stressed out. My man, Take that sip of
Shortly
water. Don't lose
after
balance, bro. Drink that shit.
the
Hydrate.
Volkswagen in States Exhibit 494Y arrived at the gas station, can you tell the jurors and previously admitted in, I believe they're before you, States Exhibits 292YL through 292N, can you tell the jurors what time another vehicle that you determined to be related to your investigation arrived at that same Texaco?
7:16 p.m.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, based on the statement of Quindarius Zachary, why that vehicle was of interest as you watched the video surveillance from the Texaco?
Because it was an Infiniti Q50.
Now, can you tell the jurors during what time did that Infiniti arrive?
7:16 p.m.
Okay. And at the time that you reviewed the video surveillance, can you tell the jurors, did members from the Pontiac interact with the vehicle depicted in this state's exhibit?
Yeah, yes. The man that occupied the front passenger seat and then entered the store at 6:42 p.m. wearing the coat, he interacted with the person or persons occupying the Infiniti.
And I apologize for the record, that's 292YL. Now, Mr. Sprinkle, can you also describe for the jurors, did an individual get out of the rear passenger area of the Pontiac?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jurors,
I feel like I'm smoking a blunt in court right now. It's great.
I guess, can you explain to the jurors what you observed that person, I guess, do?
Objection, cumulative, best evidence.
Sustained.
Hey, look, yo, remember, shit, well,
Mr. Sprinkle, how long, based on your review of the video surveillance, did the Infiniti remain within the Texaco gas pump area?
About a minute, if that. It pulled in at 7:16 and pulled out at 7:17.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, is that what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 596Y?
Your Honor,
Yes,
I'm going to object. Can I maybe approach?
you may.
Well, I'll ask the jurors.
You know what?
I know what you're doing with respect to all of them.
what the hell is going on in this courtroom? This is the most confusing shit of my life. I would hate to be Young Thug. I'd hate to be the defendant. Like, what the hell is going on? And whatever they talking about is not for the camera, as you see. They said, show a sign, a picture of the state sign, the state symbol and shit. That's how you know it's real over there. I mean, this is a big ass case. There's a lot of people. They talking about homicides and shit I never even knew was on this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first judge was doing a whole lot of things.
Now, Mr. Sprinkle, let me ask you this question based on your review of all the information you've kind of described here today. As it relates to times for when a 911 call was placed, times as it relates to, I guess, found within call detail records, and then times like the one you just referenced in the video surveillance for the Texaco. Can you tell the jurors, I guess, through your investigation, how you compared, I guess, times from the video surveillance to things like the 911 call and call detail records?
Well, your call detail records, that's, the times in those are going to be pretty consistent with, the atomic clock,
Why is that?
Well, they're a cell phone provider, and they're computerized records, and they're just going to be synced up because they're on a computer system with like an internet time protocol, or which is synced up with the atomic clock. So that's a good gauge as to the exact time of something. Also, the 911 call, system. I found in my experience that 911 calls, the timestamps on those are accurate. Surveillance videos can be a little less so. But what I found here was that knowing when the 911 call was placed, comparing all of that with cell phone records and tower logs and all that, when comparing, for example, the 911 call to surveillance video from the Texaco in particular, you can see the events that are consistent with the shooting on the Texaco, which people ran inside the store, if I remember correctly. I do remember correctly, they did. And from that, you can place a pretty good timestamp or time when the drive-by shooting occurred.
Would it be your testimony today that all of the times are, I guess, synced up exact as it relates to each other? For example, the call detail records and the Texaco video surveillance.
No, I can't say that they're linked up exactly. Surveillance videos, it's not uncommon for them to be a minute or two long.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last.
Can you speak into the mic?
It's not uncommon for surveillance videos to be a minute or two off. So I can't say that basically the watches of the surveillance video and the cell phone records were synchronized.
Okay. And we talked earlier a little bit about the phone records, or the additional phone records that you reviewed. For example, Justin Cobb and Mr. McMullins. Do you remember that?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors, upon receiving those records, however which way they were requested, did you utilize, I guess, reviewing those records as it relates to the things that we've described previously here today? The video surveillance, as well as the statements of both Mr. Zachary and Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And I want to draw your attention specifically to the time period roughly 7:29 p.m. All the way, I guess, 10 minutes to 7:39 p.m. So that 10-minute period, okay?
Okay.
Can you tell the jurors, in your review of that activity, was there any activity as it relates to the handset associated with Mr. McMullins and the handset associated with Jeffery Williams?
Your Honor, this is
Cumulative. Agent Bernie already testified to all this.
Sustained.
On that posted ass plate.
Well, let me ask you this, as it relates to your review of the call detail records, specifically the call logs of between Mr. Williams and Mr. Treadwell, can you tell the jury how many incoming and outgoing calls there were between Mr. Treadwell and Mr. Williams?
About the same objection.
Sustained.
The specific number of calls between Mr. Treadwell and Mr. Williams, I don't believe, was ever discussed.
Pretty sure it was.
It's all painfully going to treat it in different ways.
All right, I'll ask you this question. As it related to your review of the call detail records for Mr. Copeland, okay? Did you, during that time period of 7:29 to 7:39 p.m., locate any calls, whether it be incoming or outgoing, between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Williams?
7:29 to 7:39?
Correct.
If I may look at the logs. No, my short answer is I don't believe so. And that remains my answers on reviewing the actual phone logs. There were no calls between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Williams. That would have been in the phone logs from the company. Again, during Mr. Copeland's statement, he said he called Mr. Williams earlier that evening on FaceTime. FaceTime calls are not going to appear in phone records from the phone company.
Okay. But from your review, is it your testimony you didn't see any calls between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Williams?
That's right.
How about as it relates to
better start
Mr.
FaceTiming.
Copeland
That's what it
and
sound
Mr.
like.
Bradford, Mr. Cobb, Mr. McMullins, or Mr. Treadwell?
Not that I
That's all I pulled out of that pertinent information. FaceTime calls will not show up on the phone record. I'm just going to repeat that one more time. FaceTime calls will not show up on the phone record.
found now.
Okay, and I'd ask you the same series of questions as it relates to Quindarius Zachary. Did you see any activity on Mr. Zachary's records between Mr. Williams, Mr. Bradford, Mr. Cobb, Mr. McMullins, and Mr. Treadwell?
All right, well, I'm reviewing, and I'm looking at his records right now, too, just to make sure I'm not mistaken. What were the names that you just gave me again?
Mr. Williams, did you see any activity as it relates to Mr. Zachary and Mr. Williams?
I do not.
And between Mr. Zachary and Mr. Bradford and Mr. Cobb?
I do not.
And were there any, I guess, incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. McMullins or Mr. Treadwell?
Not that I see, no.
Okay. And I want to ask you lastly about Mr. Antonio Sledge. In your review of his call detail records, did you see any incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Sledge and Mr. Williams between the time period of 7:29 p.m. to 7:39 p.m.?
Anybody call me and it ain't on FaceTime, I might not answer. I'm just fucking saying.
Oh, here we go. No, I don't see any.
And what about between Mr. Sledge and Mr. Bradford or Mr. Cobb?
Man, I can only imagine. I mean, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of information. Good God. Hey, I'm surprised there's not like a whole line of...
Between what time frame again?
Tagging in, like...
7:29
you know what I mean?
and
Like, this is a lot.
7:39 p.m.
Justin Cobb called Javaris Bradford at 7:31 p.m.
And I'm sorry, I need to be more clear. Did you see any, was there any incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. Bradford?
Hey,
I'm reviewing Mr. Zachary's records. I do not see any.
And in your review of Mr. Zachary records, did you see any incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. McMullen?
No, I don't see any.
And lastly, for that same time period, did you see any activity, whether it be incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. Treadwell?
No, I don't see any.
And when you're reviewing Mr. Zachary's records, which are contained in State's Exhibit 517Y, is that correct? Is that correct? Is the records contained for Mr. Zachary, do you recall those being 517Y?
I don't know the exhibit number for the records.
Okay.
This motherfucker going to work, boy. He going to work. He got something up his sleeve. He going to work. There's something about the way he moving right now that make me feel like, yeah. Yeah. Yo, he got something together now. He
Further
unloaded.
questions pending redirect.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions for this witness right now that are going to last less than like an hour?
Less than an hour?
Yeah,
Oh, I hope so.
okay,
You got a joke.
If I'm not doing an hour, start throwing things in.
okay.
Can we
Is
do
just
that even
the
if
court
it
or
is less than an
anybody in
hour?
the courtroom?
She's just trying to send the nigga to jail real quick. Well, I'm gonna say she's just trying to get this shit over with real quick. My bad.
Mr. Sprinkle, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good, and of course we know each other. You know who I represent, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to start out by talking to you about the
does he
jail
represent?
calls, and specifically my client, Shannon Stillwell's
No, this guy here.
jail calls.
Okay.
I believe you testified that you downloaded, you estimated, I believe, 700?
So, yes, the batch that I downloaded from 2015, maybe the calls descended into 2016 as well. I don't remember. I think it was around 700 audio files. So that would represent 700 calls. It's not 700 exactly, but that's what I remember.
I understand. And you, do you have a ballpark of how many you reviewed?
I didn't review all of them.
Okay.
And a matter of fact, I probably reviewed like maybe 50 to 75.
50 to 75
Okay.
out of 700.
And regardless of how many you personally reviewed, when you downloaded them, they are saved onto your computer, your hard drive.
All of them are saved, yes.
Okay, and they would have been passed on to the prosecution team in this case, so they could review all of them, correct?
That's correct.
All right, cool. All right, I just want to, your job actually with the DA's office right now is you do prelims. You cover prelims for cases, correct? Amongst other things.
That's correct.
Like
All
he's
right.
working on something,
And,
but I don't know what it is.
I just want to unpack a little bit about what you said about preliminary hearings, is when I say prelims, preliminary hearings. You said typically a lead detective testifies.
That's right.
Okay, and you said hearsay is allowed, meaning the lead detective is allowed to testify about what other people said.
That's correct.
Okay. And you are aware
Okay, I
that
didn't know
jail call that was played that was tough to hear, a little bit low, that was from November 19th, 2015, correct?
That's right.
All right. And November 19th, 2015 is the day that Shannon Stillwell had his prelim, correct?
That's what I recall, yes.
Okay. And that's why you had interest in that call.
That's right.
All right.
I like this
And
guy.
that call was made later in the
need your
day
card, man.
after Mr. Stillwell would have returned back to the jail from his preliminary
Just
hearing.
in case.
That's right.
All right. In Shannon, in Mr. Stillwell's preliminary hearing specifically, I know you said lead detectives generally are the only ones that testified. Detective Thorpe testified in that preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Kenneth Copeland did not testify.
No.
Demekion Garlington did not testify.
No.
Quindarius Zachary did not testify.
No.
Okay. And I know it's hard to hear, but we're going to bring some volume to it, okay? Mr. Stillwell on that call said, I just went to court and they let everything out.
That sounds right, yes.
Okay, and that was after Detective Thorpe testified, correct?
That's right, after he heard Detective Thorpe's testimony. Correct.
Okay, he said they threw out, and it was tough to hear, so I want to make sure we're clear. On that call, he said they threw out yak, doo-wop, nard, correct?
I don't recall that they threw out
And
yet.
I'm not suggesting throughout the case. I'm saying throughout the names.
That sounds right. I definitely heard him mention those names.
Okay.
So I took it to mean maybe like their names were mentioned, maybe.
Right. And because it was hard to hear, I'm just trying to make it clear. He's not saying, and nowhere in that call did he say he was with those people or anything like that day.
No.
Okay. And
like this.
again,
Here, boy, this
those
is
names
the
were
game to
mentioned
play,
by
boy.
Detective Thorpe, correct?
That's right.
All right, cool.
He from the street. All right, cool. Hey, that's all right, cool. Yeah, he look. Most though. Yeah, he knew he was gonna make some BTB shorts this week. That's what that was. That's why he wore that suit.
And he was, well, you can't testify to his mind state, but in that call, he said F word D, Woody, and the other D, correct?
I don't know. Yeah, that's not a verbatim quote. It's pretty close. I mean, I think the spirit of his comment was captured in your quotation there.
Okay, and then he said, them F N-words know what is going on.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And then that's the case that was, that's the tape that was played in court today, but there are 8 other calls on that CD, correct?
Correct.
All right. You also listened in on another call that Mr. Stillwell had with that same young lady on November 23rd, 2015, correct?
I think so. That sounds right.
At 16:08,
Look
at
at the
4:08
paper.
p.m.
That sounds correct.
All right. At 5:07 into that call, Mr. Stillwell says, N-words will say whatever, correct?
That sounds correct. I know.
Oh boy, he getting up in his ass. Boy, look, look, everybody in the courtroom, body language changed. They all looking at him like, damn, nigga, yeah.
That was the general spirit. I don't know if that's an exact quotation as to what he said.
Okay. At 5:15 in that call, Mr. Stillwell said, they just trying to get the heat off their ass.
Again, that sounds like the general, that was something along the lines of what he said, that was the topic of conversation. I just can't say if that was a verbatim quote or not.
And again, Mr. Copeland at that time was facing federal and state charges.
That's right.
And Mr. Zachary, the other D, was facing charges related to the April 28th, 2015 shooting of houses, correct?
That's right.
All right. Mr. Stillwell in that November 23rd, 2015 call said, people will say anything to save their ass.
Whoa.
What's the best evidence? If Mr. Sharp would like to play the calls and
Sustained.
Okay. It is in evidence, trying to save some time, but
I appreciate that, but if there's a valid objection, I've got to sustain it.
okay. All right.
I'll withdraw my date.
Thank you.
I twisted his arm. Also in that call, and this is just one more, and then we'll move on. Mr. Stillwell said, they will sit right there and lie.
I don't recall that exact utterance being made, but it wouldn't be inconsistent with the general tone and of the call and the other things that he was saying.
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay.
Regarding Mr. Copeland's cell records and the plotting you did, let me get this right. 722 is the 911 call.
Yes.
Okay. You said at 726, you have Mr. Copeland headset pinging on the tower. So 4 minutes later, he's pinging on the tower at the Green Store or in the vicinity of the Green Store.
That is correct. It had moved north to that tower, so it was actually south of that tower seconds prior to, but yes.
Well, you don't actually, cell phone records aren't like a chart where you see, for instance, a cursor moving through a map, are they? You don't see real-time movements during a call, do you?
No.
You just get spots in certain points in time
Yes, that's correct.
when cell calls are initiated.
That is, well, you get the tower and the antenna utilized by the handset at the time of the call. It's a very big area.
But just at the time, right, vague area, but also just at the time of the initiation of the call.
Correct.
Okay. And so 4 minutes after the purported time of the 911 call, that headset is utilizing the tower near the Green Store.
That's right.
Okay. And we also, the truth is, we can speculate. We don't know how much time passed. We know the 911 call was made at 7:22, but we don't know how much time passed between the shooting and the 911 call, do we?
No, I can't say exactly. From what I recall, it's pretty quickly, but I can't say the exact seconds.
Well, we don't, I mean, people, before they call 911, they can try to hide guns, right?
There's any number of things people can do before they call
Right.
911.
They can try to get guns before they call 911.
The possibilities are endless as to what somebody could do before
Right.
they call 911.
And some people will do certain things before they call the police to where they're at.
The pep is going. You know what I'm
Sustained.
saying?
Well, the bottom line is we don't know how much time passed. So we're dealing with inexact
He
times.
looks like Woody
Yes.
Harrelson from
Okay,
the
great.
I'm like, yo,
And
this look like that's Woody fucking.
you would agree that the Green Store
Okay.
is within a minute drive of the barbershop?
It's pretty close. I don't know. I can't say if it's a minute, but it's less than a mile away.
Less than a mile away. Thank you. All right. Finally, I'm just going to ask you about one other matter. Javaris Bradford has come up, a.k.a. Tudor, right?
Yes.
Okay, he's the owner of, through your investigator, he's the owner of the Pontiac at the Texaco.
Yeah, from what I recall, he was the registered owner.
Right, and he came up in your investigation, and the fact that Pontiac was on the video piqued your interest.
That's what I said. Yep.
All right. At some point in November of 2018, he wasn't charged in 2015.
He wasn't.
Okay. In November of 2018, he was still in the community, correct? He wasn't in jail or anything.
That's right.
All right. And you determined that you wanted to speak to him.
I did.
All right. And did you reach out to him?
I don't think I reached out to him. It was likely a DA's office investigator. Somebody reached out to him.
Okay. And was he asked to come in? Was he compelled to come into the DA's office? How did that work?
I believe we gave him a grand jury subpoena, if I remember correctly.
Okay, you issued a grand jury subpoena for him to come in and speak to you?
Well, the grand jury was in session that day. Having never spoken to him, I wanted to speak with him before I potentially put him up before the grand jury, and I did end up speaking with him, and at that point I determined that not to put him up.
Okay, that was November 13th, 2018, correct?
That's correct.
And you had a meeting with him in a conference room in the DA's office, correct?
Right, it was on video. I have it right here, actually.
Yes. And present were you,
ready with that.
Investigator Thorpe, at some point
This on video.
came into the meeting, correct?
Investigator Thorpe, I think he was present the entire meeting.
Okay.
It's on video, but from what I remember, he was there the entire time.
Okay. And then I don't want to mess up the young lady's name, so I'm not even going to try, but there was an investigator with the DA's office. Could you say her name correctly?
Cynthia Nwakocha.
Wakocha.
Cynthia, first name, last name, Nwokocha, I believe.
Okay.
Well, I
Thank
can do
you.
her name
And
like
Javaris
this.
Bradford showed up, correct?
That's correct.
He did not have an attorney,
He did not.
and he showed up to the conference room without an attorney, correct?
Object is irrelevant, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. For this meeting, you had video from the Texaco, or was it stills or video?
There were definitely stills. I think it may have, I can't recall if I played motion pictures of the surveillance video or I just had stills. He was at the very least showed still images.
And you told him, in fact, that you were investigating the homicide of Donovan Thomas.
I'm going to object to Research's point as to what Mr. Sprinkle told Mr. Bradford.
I can't hear his objection to it. You need to speak into the motherfucking
Sustained.
mic.
To what? I'm not asking what Mr. Bradford told Mr. Sprinkle. I'm asking what Mr. Sprinkle told Mr. Bradford.
Oh, okay. Overruled.
It's still an out-of-court statement.
Well, y'all can ask him, he's right here.
Okay. So you told him that there was evidence against him in this case.
I don't recall exactly what I said. I bet
Let's watch
I
the
likely
tape.
said that to him.
I
I
think
would go so far as to say is yes, I did. That would.
Report. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Yes, I'm sure I said that to him because there was.
Okay. And you wanted him to speak to you about who was at the Texaco, correct?
I did.
Okay. And you told him that your supervisor wanted to charge him, but you were holding things off to give him a chance to talk.
You're saying
Yeah, I mean, it is.
all
Sustained.
Okay.
It just said the lead detective
Let me ask you
can
this.
testify to hearsay, though. So how you gonna object to it being hearsay?
Was your
and
supervisor
this
Pat Dutcher at
and
the
him
time?
not fight that?
He was in.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we
Oh, only
approach?
three
You may.
left. Okay. Right. He basically trying to show them that he lined them up during questioning. That's pretty much what's happening right now. He's basically like, yeah, so y'all told him this. And y'all told him that he had this going on and that you was going to help him out. The same shit they do in every investigation. Watch, what's that show called? First 48 or whatever? Man, look, they are professional telling. Yeah, I know. They always throw it to the state of Georgia symbol of 1776. Yeah. 1738. Hey. That's it. Man, yeah. Oh, Fetty, what was he doing? He was like, he got like scamming or something. I thought, wasn't it? Oh, it was drugs. Oh shit, my bad. I didn't even mean to put that on you, then, Fetty. You out here. Oh, man, look. I don't know. We gotta look into that. We're gonna have to look into the downfall of the Fetty Wap. The downfall was the up. Right, he was still Fetty. What the fuck? Oh my god. That was Lord. Shit. Nah, yeah. Come on. Let's get back to the. She telling them stop wasting my fucking time. You know when both of them come back smiling and then he just did a little grunt at the end. You know that they just told him.
Your Honor, based on the court's ruling, I do not have any more questions,
Look,
and I'll know
see?
with like 50
She hit
minutes
the wrap
spare.
it up button.
That is
Wrap it
correct.
up,
All right,
button. She went back and
is
hit that
any
Dave
other
Chappelle
defense
wrap
attorney
it
going to
up
have questions for Mr. Sprinkle?
Look, that's why he came back smiling like that. And then,
Okay,
like,
all right,
grinning at
let's,
the
I
end a
think we
little
can
bit.
fit in another one or maybe two.
Said, wrap that shit up, B. That ass, though.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sprinkle, or ADA Sprinkle.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well.
Hey, what? Hey, yo. Wow. He didn't have to do that. He really didn't have to do that. That was crazy. That was ridiculous.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sprinkle,
Good afternoon.
or ADA Sprinkle.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Can I just look at this?
Yeah. If Betty only got 6 for drug trafficking, he all right.
You can see this demonstrative, right?
I can.
Oh, we
I'll
got
leave this
boards
here.
and
Is
shit.
that okay? Mm-hmm. That's okay.
He said, good afternoon, Mr. Frank. can't
I
get off
don't
that.
see
That's like
Mr.
sinister as
Kendrick's phone on there.
That is correct.
So you didn't do any analysis for Mr. Kendrick's phone on January the 10th, 2015.
I was without records to analyze for Mr. Kendrick's phone.
Okay, so you have no records of his phone on that date, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
hell. Damn, that was fast.
Anybody else?
That nigga went, he held his defendant down. That nigga
All right.
walked up there real quick. You have no records of his on that day. Okay, cool, bye. Who the fuck? That nigga went and sat a board up in front of the shit and left.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
He wanted to do it too, y'all. He wanted to say, good afternoon, Mr. Sprinkle. But he said, good afternoon, sir. You've already gotten it with no Vaseline today. But we're going to leave you alone. Good afternoon, Mr. Sunday. Like, what the fuck?
How are you,
Come on.
sir?
I'm okay. How you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you.
I'll actually let you know if I'm okay.
Oh, Lord.
Can I ask you some questions?
Here we go.
Well, yes,
I'll
please.
actually
Thank
let
you.
you know if I'm okay.
So, I want to just go into a few different topics. When the way this was set up in your office, and you specifically,
Well, look, stop that real quick. Coastal just did some research, and yeah, obviously they can pull up those FaceTime videos too. So, the FBI can, I guess. So yeah, look, I guess just don't call me at all.
work in this case, I think you made it clear. I'm going to be very brief, but if I'm wrong, just say I got it wrong. Law enforcement officers with whomever, FBI, APD, GBI, whomever's working the case, eventually your office may get involved and summon or they give to you their work product or their files on the case. Fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes.
And then what you're doing is, because you're law enforcement, but you're the arm of the attorneys who come to court, you have to look at everything and prepare it or not prepare it for any type of charges.
That's right.
All right, and when I say charge, I mean formal charge. I know, ladies and gentlemen, know police can issue warrants, but warrants aren't an official charging document. That would be an accusation or a bill of indictment.
Yes.
When you got, and I'm focused only on this case, obviously, okay? When you get the file, you're getting the files from everybody who touched the case, as far as you could tell, from crime labs, from law enforcement, APD, GBI, whomever. I'm not eliminating, I'm not trying to keep out other agencies, but you try to get all those files together.
Well, yeah, I try to get all the documents or whatever media that every agency that investigated the case has. I mean, I want to get as much as possible.
Sure. Now, when you get the APD files, Atlanta Police Department files, and you start looking at them and reviewing them, I want to ask you if you can remember. Do you remember any notation from Detective Thorpe that he reviewed the McDonald's surveillance video from January 10th, either January 10th, 2015, and he did that on or about January 11th or January 12th, 2015?
I don't, and I feel like I would remember that.
Tell the jurors why you remember that, if you don't mind.
Well, the McDonald's, as they've heard, was the McDonald's at Old Hayville and Cleveland Avenue.
151 Cleveland Avenue?
Yeah, I think that's the address. Whatever, it's at the intersection, at or near the intersection of Old. Yes, I believe that's the address. What you just said, and that was said to be a rendezvous point, the parking lot of which. So I would have remembered I would have remembered it because, first of all, I've never seen that video. I've never seen any surveillance video from McDonald's. So if I were to read something that said from a law enforcement officer said they did review it, I would have said, well, I would have remembered, that would have been a big thing for me. I would want to have had the video. So no, I don't recall any notations from Detective Thorpe about him reviewing the video and not obtaining it, presumably. So no, I don't remember anything like that.
And
So
if
is there
that
a
video, if it's working and if it captures the area that this, what was your word, rendezvous? Is that what you just said?
I think so.
Okay. And the rendezvous, according to Mr. Copeland, let's say, it might be others, but at approximately 8 o'clock at night, January 10th, 2015, approximately. Mm-hmm. And you could correct me, if my times are off. If that surveillance at the McDonald's captured people actually meeting, then we would know who was actually there and if Mr. Copeland was being straightforward. Is that fair to say?
I'm going to object to speculation.
Sustained.
Yes, this is speculation, and we all want to know, do you have a video, sir? Because it sounds like you do.
Did Detective Thorpe ever tell you, besides his file, did he tell you that he went out and looked at and saw or tried to see the video from the 10th day of January 2015, approximately 8 o'clock p.m. from the McDonald's?
Objection, here, sir.
I covered this with Detective Thorpe, and I'm impeaching him.
Overruled.
I don't recall him telling me that. It doesn't mean that he didn't, but I just don't recall it. It just seems like something that would leave a mental impression on me because, again, I would have just thought, well, where's the video? I don't have the video. I would have liked to know that. So I don't think he ever did.
In your experience, since I believe you said 2012, but it might have been 2009, with the DA's office in Fulton County, have you looked at and subpoenaed whether or a grand jury, or excuse me, a court's search warrant, surveillance video from stores?
I have, yeah.
Have you found that after a certain period of time, some of the video is erased or deleted?
Yes, that's the practice. Videos are all digital. I don't want to say they're all digital. There may still be people using tapes, but every video I've ever seen has been digital, and they only have so much room on the computer system that's storing the video, and eventually will start overwriting itself.
Explain, first of all, this includes 2015?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jurors what you mean. I know you're comfortable with it, but overriding itself. Just explain that process from your experience, knowledge, and work with these.
Well, just like every computer surveillance system, cameras are hooked up to essentially a computer. The footage is recorded digitally and stored on a drive, some sort of media in the computer, but that drive can only store so much data, so many ones and zeros, I suppose. And so once the drive is full, the system is programmed to just, it's not like a tape where it starts in the beginning of the tape and starts overwriting it, but it starts writing data to the parts of the drive that already have data on it. And over time, the data just starts to rewrite itself, and eventually, after a certain amount of time, all traces of the footage from a certain date will eventually be gone as they've been overwritten by data from other footage.
So just putting that on make it simple, on a date, have you seen surveillance video that lasts 30 days?
I believe so. I don't want to throw out any names, but there's one place in particular that comes to mind, but it's not relevant here, and I also don't remember exactly, but I do believe that 30 days I have seen before.
Okay. What's a typical days until it starts overriding?
I'm going to ask and answer the speculation element relates to McDonald's video.
I'm impeaching Detective Thorpe.
I feel
Obviously a
maybe
video. We know-
2
come on,
weeks.
man, we ain't stupid. It's a
That's always
video
what I
somewhere.
kind of
Okay.
mark in my mind as
There was some editing
if it's
going
within 2 weeks
on.
of an event. I mean, you want to get the video as soon as possible, to be clear. But I really start losing hope after 2 weeks. But again, it depends on this. It could be a big retail outfit. Now, going back to 2015, it may be a little different, and maybe they just have petabytes of storage for their video and it's stored off site. But your typical, like a gas station, particularly in 2015, where it was stored within, probably on a DVR, you're going to want to get that as soon as possible. You can start overwriting after 48 hours.
Okay. And when you say then it writes it over, so if it's, I'm just using 2 weeks, okay? Mm-hmm. January 1, 2015, 2 weeks would go to approximately January 14, 2015.
Right.
On January 15, 2015, does the entirety, in your experience and your dealing with this, does the entirety of everything in those 2 weeks go away, or is it on a rolling basis?
Would you object to asked and answered one
Not of this witness.
and speculation as to this witness?
He's asking within his experience, overruled.
Well, okay, so are we talking about one location and one, if we're talking about surveillance footage, one location and one computer system, or we're talking about in the entire world of surveillance footage?
McDonald's, 2015, January 10th, surveillance, just typical McDonald's, your experience, hypothetically 2 weeks. I want to know on the 15th day, so I'm just after the 2 weeks, what you're explaining to the jury, does day one, January 1 override, or the entirety from January 1 to 2014? That's my question.
Object to lack of foundation at this point?
Sustained.
In your
Damn,
experience,
that was a good one, though.
with a 2-week camera, does it
Good one,
override
though.
just one day at a time?
Right.
As the next day comes in, the first day's gone.
Vague as to your experience to a camera in
We
a
just need
2-week
to see the
period.
tape.
Any camera? I mean,
Sustained.
Yeah, we just need to see the damn tape.
When you say override, tell the jurors what you meant by that.
asked and answered.
Sustained.
I don't believe he just
Yeah, he
used the
did.
word.
He explained it in detail.
Yeah.
All right.
You beating a dead horse, homie.
Did you or any of your members of your team, I'm including the prosecution team, you understand what I'm asking? Mm-hmm. So prosecution team are all law enforcement, GBI crime lab, your office, whomever, okay? FBI. Did you ever find out from any source that McDonald's, how long, if at all, they had that surveillance video?
The record retention period for surveillance video, if I knew it, I don't remember it now. So no, I can't answer. I don't know what their
You're not
retention
gonna
period
give me
was
that.
back
Let's
then,
move on.
nor do I know what it is now.
Did you ever hear from a detective, you know who Detective Gaither, Detective Dennis, they worked together, gang unit in 2015, January?
Yes, I know them.
Okay. Did they ever tell you or put in writing in any way that they went to the McDonald's in June 11, 2015 and inquired about the surveillance?
Objection hearsay.
I am impeaching Detective Gaither's testimony.
And who are you asking about at this point?
Detective Gaither, January 11th, 2015, going to McDonald's and inquiring about the video.
And that is hearsay, and it's not impeachment unless they specifically confronted Detective
Sustained.
Gaither
I did confront Detective
Gaither?
Gaither.
with
Yes.
telling Mr. Sprinkle as to whether they got video surveillance footage or not.
I wanna know if it's in- I want to know if it's in his
Detective Gaither was
records.
not confronted with that.
Okay, sustained.
I want to know if it's in the records.
That wouldn't be, then that would, what would, Rephrase your question. That question, the objection is sustained.
Do you have any information from any source that you looked at in your records, conversations that Detective Gaither and or Detective Dennis went to the McDonald's on the day after interviewing Kenneth Copeland, June 11, 2015, and inquired about their surveillance equipment?
No, I have no notes that indicate that, and I have no memory of any conversations that I had with them where they told me that they did.
Did you ever obtain personally?
Basically, what I'm getting from this is that it seems to be that there were some people that went to this motherfucking McDonald's and inquired about this tape and that know about this damn tape. That's what it seems to be to me. I think that's the picture he's painting, and the fact that it's not in any of the records is interesting as well. So if this tape does exist, I mean, hopefully it shows some good shit in the favor of everybody. I hope he don't bring out a tape that fucks shit up worse. You know what I'm saying?
Or have a member of your team, or it was done before you got involved.
Right.
Sky House, you know, the condominium that Mr. Williams was living at in January 2015?
Yes.
Okay.
Or maybe he's just trying to prove tampering of evidence.
Any surveillance from there?
No.
You know what I mean?
How about the Green Store? Any surveillance at the Green Store that Kenneth Copeland states that he was there, personally there, at and around the time of the killing of Donovan Thomas? Any surveillance from there?
No, no surveillance.
Did you or members of the prosecution team, I'm including all law enforcement, ever interview the people or persons that Kenneth Copeland said in June 10, 2015 that he was with at the Green Store at the time around Mr. Donovan Thomas's murder?
Well, there's a little Rick that he mentioned, if I remember correctly. No, I didn't, nor do I know if law enforcement did. No.
How many cell phones did Kenneth Copeland have access to that he can use on January 10, 2015?
All I know of is the one that I testified to.
And you do know that Kenneth Copeland testified in this court, and if you don't know, just say I don't know, that he had multiple cell phones.
I'm going to object at the rule of sequestration.
I mean, I would hope he doesn't know.
Okay.
Since he's a
Do you
witness in this case.
have knowledge that Mr. Copeland did not have 2 or more cell phones on January 10, 2015 through your investigation?
Asked and answered. He just answered that question, that he only knew of the one cell phone.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this. Phone records that you talked about at length with the Honorable Mr. Body, through your analysis, and what you were given and subpoenaed more phone records, fair to say?
Yes.
All right. Those phone records give a general whereabout of where a handset is located, if it's working properly, if the records are accurate, I'm assuming all that, where a phone set would be in relation to its cell phone tower. Is that fair to say?
Right, just the area, the approximate area that the phone would be located based on the tower that it utilized.
And in your experience, if you know, and if you don't know, just say, I don't want to testify to this, that area could be how many miles, how many feet, do you know? And we're talking about Atlanta, January 2015. And please, I'm not trying to put you out on a limb. I know you're under oath.
Well, I don't know that anybody could testify as to the exact square footage of the area, but it suffices to say it's not like GPS. It's a large area, probably, like over a mile.
Could be multiple miles.
Could be.
And jurors may not understand what you meant by it's not like GPS. Just explain that.
Well, like a point on a map. Like, in other words, when you get phone records, you don't have a log of the exact locations of a cellular device, like a pinpoint that you could put on the map that the phone was right here. Like, for example, I have a phone on me. If you were to get my phone records, it wouldn't show my phone sitting right here in the witness stand. It would show that it was using the tower next to the courthouse or near the courthouse, down the street, wherever, but it's not exactly.
Now, are you aware from your review of your records as you've been testifying and the recordings that Kenneth Copeland met with Detective Thorpe, Homicide Detective Thorpe, on the early morning hours of January 11, 2015?
Yes, I do recall Kenneth Copeland traveled to the precinct or arrived at the precinct and spoke with Detective Thorpe, yes.
And did you remember seeing that video? Did you ever watch that, and do you have a memory of that video encounter?
I believe so. It's been a while. I don't recall that video being all that important to me. I remember summarizing it, so I must have watched it, yes.
Do you remember Kenneth Copeland had a cell phone on the desk when he was speaking with Detective Thorpe?
That I don't remember. I'd have to take a look at the video.
Well, the jurors have seen it, so we're good. Do you remember Kenneth Copeland explaining that he knew that cell phones can give an area on January 11, 2015, explaining to Detective Thorpe that he was aware that check the cell phone records, check the cell phone, it'll show it's in this area? Do you remember him saying that?
I remember somebody saying that during the, I can't say that I remember if it was him,
I
though.
remember somebody saying that, but it wasn't so important to you. That's because anything that you say can and will be used against your ass, not to help your ass. It will be used against your ass, and that's why he cannot remember anything that might help that young man. I'm just saying.
Let me ask you this.
Ask him this.
The cell phone records that we have here, unfortunately, don't give the actual communication. They might say handset of Kenneth Copeland, speaks with a handset of Natasha Williams, but we don't know what's being said according to these records. Fair to say?
That's correct.
I get one of those.
Now, with regards to Nyesha Williams, Nyisha Williams, typical
Yes.
spelling. Do you know that person?
I do not.
Okay. Do you remember seeking and obtaining and subpoenaing cellular telephone records for Nyesha Williams?
I do remember doing that.
And do you remember why you did that?
They appeared in there was a number that appeared in Kenneth Copeland's cell phone records that evening, and when I say that evening, I mean the evening of January 10th, 2015.
Okay.
And specifically, so I'm clear here, it was 404-6210102. I'm looking at Kenneth Copeland's records to refresh my recollection. And because of the times that there were phone calls sent or transmitted and received by that number, I thought it was relevant, so I subpoenaed both the call logs and the subscriber information. The subscriber information was the name of Nyesha Williams.
And sometimes people can, and there's nothing wrong with it, people can use a cell phone that's not registered in their name for various reasons. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. It happens all the time.
So Nyesha Williams, I'm just using that name since we're using it, she could be on the Verizon call as a registered person, but she can freely give me her cell phone and I could use it all the time.
That's right.
But it would come back if somebody, like you subpoenaed it, it would look like it's Nyesha Williams' call. In the name doesn't mean she's using the phone.
That's right.
And you, through your research, took Kenneth Copeland's statements on June 10th, 2015, and when he said he called Mr. Garlington, you wanted to know what number Mr. Garlington was using then. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
And through your deduction, whether it's right or wrong, you said the Nyesha Williams registered phone might have been in the custody, control, and use of Demeke and Garlington.
It's possible, but I do not know.
I'm not saying anyone knows, but that was your deduction.
That's right.
That's why you then targeted the jail records for Nyesha Williams' registered phone, because you thought it may relate to Mr. Garlington.
Do you mean the cell phone records for her phone?
Did I say that?
I think you said jail records, but yes, I obtained the cell phone records for
I
her
said
phone.
jail record. I meant cell phone record.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you obtained those records, you specifically did not request, you testified to this before, you specifically did not request historical cell site location data for Nyesha Williams' phone.
That's correct.
And what that means to the jurors who may know what it is, but don't, that means you don't get the longitude and latitude of which tower that phone is employing at the time of the handset speaking with the cell tower, then it goes to switching station.
That's essentially right. You just get a log of incoming and outgoing calls, the times, the numbers, but the columns that tell you the location of the tower that was utilized, you don't get that. You need a search warrant for that.
Did you ever exclude the Naisha Williams cell phone as the phone Mr. Garlington was using on the night of January 10, 2015?
Did I ever conclude that it was not his phone? Or the phone that he was using, rather?
I meant the phone is using.
No, I never definitively concluded that he was or was not using that phone.
And if, as you believed or hunched or were doing your work, Mr. Garlington was using that phone registered to Naisha Williams, then you can track at least what calls were being made at what times. Is that fair to say?
Speculation on if it belongs to our job.
All right, go ahead. You can answer.
You mean I can at least see the phone,
Yes.
like the list of calls that were sent and received, text messages sent and received by the phone, the handset?
Yes.
Yes, I believe I obtained those records.
All right.
Where we going? Where we going with this? Don't leave me hanging.
Now, Mr. Copeland stated on June 10th, 2015, from the McDonald's, that he was in his car at some point, along with Mr. Garlington and along with Mr. McMullen, Demise McMullins, also known as Nard.
If I remember correctly, I think you said it was his brother, Rontrez Brock's Dodge Charger, but yes, all three of them were at the McDonald's in that car, a car that he had possession of. Kenneth Copeland did, that is.
Okay. And Kenneth Copeland said that I'm not saying it's true, but Kenneth Copeland said on June 10th, 2015, he left the McDonald's. I'm using 8 o'clock. If I'm wrong, just correct my time, but approximately 8 o'clock. He was driving the vehicle, the Charger, along with Mr. Garlington in the front passenger seat and Mr. McMullen or Nard in the rear driver's seat.
That sounds right, yeah. I don't recall what the exact seating arrangement was, but the occupants of the vehicle, that sounds correct.
And then he has that car, the Charger, going up following another vehicle, a Nitro, white Nitro, to around Jeffery Williams' Sky House condo.
That's what he said.
And did you look, when analyzing the calls from Naisha Williams, records rather, from Naisha Williams, and realize that during that relevant period of time on the supposed drive from McDonald's to the Sky House, the Naisha Williams call that's potentially with Mr. Garlington and the Mr. McMullen calls, the number associated with Mr. McMullen, were in communication with each other?
Are you asking me, did Mr. McMullen and or the phone subscribed to by somebody named Naisha Williams communicate?
At the relevant time of when supposedly Mr. Copeland is driving them together in the same car to the Sky House? Yes, that's my question.
I don't recall. I do recall Mr. McMullen was a very frequently contacted number within the Naisha Williams phone records. I don't, but I don't have. Well, I do have Mr. McMullen.
If you could check it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Just tell the
That's
jurors
good.
whether at
I
the
wanna
time they're
see if
supposedly
they
in
were
the same
sitting
exact
there
car,
riding in the same
these two
car.
phone numbers of the Naisha Williams and the Mr. McMullen are communicating together according to
Yeah,
phone
that
records.
makes sense.
Okay,
Let's
so
just
we
see.
have what?
Unless they was texting some sneaky link shit in the back or something, you know
Can
what I'm
you
saying?
use what exhibit you're using?
Yeah, I'm
Is that
gonna
an
stir that thing
exhibit?
up later.
Or
It's already in evidence.
does he know what exhibit number it is?
Do you have an exhibit number? Are you looking at an actual?
I
No,
think he may, well, y'all can clarify it, but is there an exhibit number on what you're looking at?
No, I just brought
No,
the phone, I printed them out and brought them to court. So
This is, what is it that you're looking at?
the phone records for 470-217-6080, Demise McMullen.
Okay, does anybody know what exhibit number that is?
Yes, 464Y. And
Thank you.
Mr. Steele requested it during my direct.
Okay.
I didn't want it during his cross as well.
Okay, so what I see here is at 7:59 p.m. on January 10th, 2015.
Just do me a favor, because you're looking down. Can you just go a little slower?
Yes, yes.
What I see,
Actually, let me stop. How much longer is your examination of this witness going to be?
45 minutes,
All right, let's stop and break for lunch.
Oh, man.
2 an hour and a half, because I don't want to, you know.
Cliffhanger right there, man. That was a hell of a cliffhanger.
All right, I'll
We
see y'all
find out.
back at,
Why she stop it right there like that? Something getting ready to happen behind
let's
the
be
scenes or
back
something.
at 1:45.
It make me feel like
Thank you, Your Honor.
that was just, y'all could have let them finish that real quick. I feel like that was some pertinent evidence. Let's make sure we remember that what was that shit called, the evidence number, I guess. That shit fit. Hey, brother, camera behind you, idiot. Look at this guy. This guy's sitting here trying to cover his mouth while he talking, and the camera is fucking behind you. And we looking at you, my guy. Like, what the fuck? Look at this guy.
All right, unless there's anything we need to take up, I'll see everybody back at 1:45.
Well,
All right.
Right.
man. Yeah, that shit fitting to get ill out there. Yo, damn, thugger. Well, y'all seen it. It's break time. Not that I feel like they should have went to break right there. We was getting ready to hear whether or not these alleged phone calls was happening from the same vehicle, and two people in the same vehicle and shit. That's very important to know. You know what I'm saying? Free thugger. I mean, condolences to everybody, families, no matter what happens. You know what I mean? Everybody taking losses and stuff. I guess you know what I'm saying. But I don't know all that. Blah 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 blah. But free thugger. This has been BTB React, and I am BTB Grilla, and this is the BTB Grilla Zone. And Troop Squad, look, it was fun, and we enjoyed having you guys around. So we'll see y'all later.